in particular, we're now firmly in the hard yards, the nuts and bolts of international climate diplomacy. And the negotiations are getting tough. And with just a few days left, there is still a huge amount to do. We've made a difference, we hope, for our planet and for our people. We've moved the ball a long way down the pitch, but we're now stuck in a bit of a rolling maul, to mix my football and my rugby metaphors. The line is in sight, but if we're going to get there, we need a determined push to get us over the line. We need to be more ambitious, and we need more credible plans for implementation. We have to bridge the gap between where we are and where we need to be if we're going to cut emissions in half by 2030. And we need to pull out all the stops if we're going to do what we came here to do, and that's keep 1.5 alive and make Paris the success that the world needs it to be. Because that 2015 agreement in Paris was a significant moment in the fight against climate change, but it was ultimately a pledge of action still to come. And it's very frustrating to see countries that have spent 6 years conspicuously patting themselves on the back for signing that promissory note in Paris, quietly edging towards default, now that vulnerable nations and future generations are demanding payment here now in Glasgow. And there's really no excuse, because we know what is at stake here. We've been hearing it all week. We heard it from the president of Palau, Siranga Whips, who told me he spent 5 days traveling 7,500 miles across 9 time zones to make sure that the voice of his people was heard. And the least we can do is pay attention when he says that if the big economies don't do more, we, and I quote, might as well bomb his islands. We heard it from Simon Coffey from the government of Tuvalu, who spoke to us not from a podium in a cozy conference room, but knee-deep in a steadily rising Pacific Ocean. And we heard it from the Prime Minister Mia Mottley of Barbados, who so moved us on the opening ceremony when she warned that we are digging our own graves, and asked, when are the leaders finally going to lead? And so I say to my fellow leaders, if you stood and applauded her then, you cannot now sit on your hands as the world asks you to act, because the world knows what a mess our planet is in. The world has heard leaders from every country, continent, stand here and acknowledge the need for action, and the world will find it absolutely incomprehensible if we fail to deliver that, and the backlash from people will be immense and it will be long-lasting. And frankly, we will deserve their criticism and their opprobrium, because we know what needs to be done, and we all agree what needs to be done. We just need the courage actually to get on and do it. So now is the time for everyone to come together and show the determination needed to power on through the blockages, to look at the science with dispassionate eyes and think about how we can compromise, how we can be flexible to meet the needs of the planet. And for world leaders who are now back in their capitals, to pick up the phone to their teams here and give them the negotiating margin, give them the space they need in which to maneuver and get this done. Here in Glasgow, the world is closer than it has ever been to signaling the beginning of the end of anthropogenic climate change. And it's the greatest gift we can possibly bestow on our children and our grandchildren and generations unborn. And it's now within reach. At COP26, in these final days, we just need to reach out together and grasp it. And so my question to my fellow world leaders this afternoon, as we enter the last hours of COP, is, will you help us do that? Will you help us grasp that opportunity, or will you stand in the way? Thank you all very much. I'm now going to go to the UK media. It was represented, first of all, by Adam Fleming of the BBC.
Thank you very much. On this conference, we've seen the draft text that was published this morning. Is that kind of a floor of where you want to go? And would you say that if that's watered down over the next few days, that then compromises your goal of keeping 1.5 degree temperature increase within reach? And just on MPs' second jobs and standards, and Geoffrey Cox, do you feel the need to do anything to reassure the public about that whole system?
Thanks very much, Adam. So first of all, on where we are. It is crucial now that we show high ambition. That's what we're trying to do. And the opportunity is there, but the risk of failure if we fail to deliver an ambitious COP26 here in Glasgow is also colossal. And the risk of sliding back, I think, would be an absolute disaster for the planet. As we go into the final furlong of any negotiation, that's where the horses change places. That's the most difficult moment. There are three pillars that we have to get right, and they're all interrelated. And I'm sure you all know what they are: adaptation, mitigation, and finance. Our negotiators from around the world are working together now to get a deal. I can't say that it's going to be easy. I certainly can't say that it's going to be enough, but we've got to do absolutely everything we can. On the issue of MPs and second jobs and all that, I just want to say the most important thing is those who break the rules must be investigated and should be punished. And on second jobs, I would say that for hundreds of years, MPs have gone to Parliament and also done work as doctors or lawyers or soldiers or firefighters or writers or all sorts of other trades and callings. And on the whole, the world of the UK population has understood that that has actually strengthened our democracy, because people basically feel that parliamentarians do need to have some experience of the world. But if that system is going to continue today, then it is crucial that MPs follow the rules. And the rules say two crucial things. You must put your job as an MP first, and you must devote yourself primarily and above all to your constituents and the people who send you to Westminster, to Parliament. And they also say that you should not use your position as an MP to lobby or otherwise intervene on behalf of any outside commercial interests. And it's not just you have to register those interests, you can't lobby or make representations while an MP on behalf of those interests. And those are the rules, and they must be enforced, and those who don't obey them should, of course, face sanctions. Let's go to Robert Peston, ITV.
Prime Minister. The UN's own environment expert said last night that countries have promised only half the cuts in greenhouse gases needed by 2030 to keep global warming to 1.5 degrees. As of now, you have failed to keep 1.5 alive. What can you do in these remaining days to rescue it? And just to go back to the issue of Owen Paterson and indeed, as you say, to Cox. The Speaker has said that your actions in ordering your MPs to vote against the immediate punishment of Owen Paterson brought the Commons into disrepute. That's what he said. So do you want to use this moment to apologise?
So thanks, Robert. First of all, on whether we can keep 1.5 alive, I agree with you. I think it's in the balance. We had if I had to define where we've been in the last few days, we had a surge of activity in the first couple of days. Things moved. There was the feeling of life under the keel. We went forward. We're now finding things are tough, but that doesn't mean it's impossible. It doesn't mean that we can't keep 1.5 alive. I think with sufficient energy and commitment, and with leaders from around the world now ringing up their negotiators and asking them to move in the ways that they know they can move and should move, I still think we can achieve it. But I'm not going to pretend to you that it is by any means a done deal. And On your second point, look, there are a couple of things I would say. That the first is that anybody, as I said actually in that debate last week, anybody who breaks the rules, who engages in, the first thing I said, anybody who engages in paid advocacy in the House of Commons should be punished and should face the appropriate sanction. What we're trying to do, and I think what MPs across the House of Commons are still interested in seeing whether there's a cross-party agreement can be reached, is on reform of the process, and I know that the Parliamentary Standards Committee is looking at whether they can at reform as well. Chris Bryant's committee is also, I think, looking at the possibility of reform. And those two things should obviously be kept completely separate. Let's go to Beth Rigby of Sky News.
Thank you. Prime Minister, you just talked about world leaders stepping up, but you also talked about world leaders standing in the way. Who do you need to move to get that ball into the goal? And just despite the political momentum you have brought to COP, which I think people agree, you've only got 48 more hours. It doesn't look like it's going to happen. Do you accept that this summit could end up as a very important staging post to delivering the Paris Accord, but actually we should now look to many more months of negotiation and look towards Egypt? And then my question on MPs. You just said that MPs must put their jobs as MPs first. Do you believe all your colleagues have been doing that? And has the former Attorney General, Geoffrey Cox, in particular, been doing that? Thank you.
Thanks very much, Beth. Well, look, it's so important for everybody watching, and I know that literally there are millions, billions of people who are worried about climate change. And we've got to be honest, the COP26 summit here in Glasgow is not going to fix it in one go. We're not going to arrest climate change right here, right now. That is just impossible. And I think everybody has got to be realistic about that. But what we can possibly do, if things go well in the remaining 48 hours, 52 hours, whatever we've got, and I don't see why we shouldn't go into extra time if we have to, but I don't want to. There is the possibility that we will come away from this with the first genuine roadmap for a solution to anthropogenic climate change that I can think of in my lifetime. And the most depressing thing about climate change has been that it doesn't really look as though it's capable of being fixed anytime soon. I think what you could have is some of the types of solutions that the world needs to adopt to do it, and what we're going to need to do, and you're right to mention Egypt, we're going to need to make sure that we keep coming back to this and we keep holding nations and governments to account, and of course corporations as well and businesses as well. On your other question about particular members of Parliament, I just want to say I don't want to comment on individual cases. It wouldn't be right for me to do that. It wouldn't be appropriate. But I want to repeat how strongly I feel that those who do break the rules, those who are not putting the interests of their constituents first, which is all of our duty as MPs, they should face appropriate sanctions and punishment. Thanks, Beth. Emma Gatton of the Telegraph.
Hello. On MPs, what is your message to voters who are alarmed by headlines saying that Tory sleaze has returned? And just again, do you want to say sorry for the way that you handled the Owen Paterson case? And on the COP, do you have messages for specific countries? We've heard calls for the US needing to step up on financing, which is a huge issue at the moment. You spoke to Saudi Arabia this morning. They've also been accused of blocking talks. China has not come forward with enough at this COP.
Yeah, thanks very much, Emma. Look, since we're in an international context and speaking before international colleagues, I want to say one thing which I hope is not taken in any chauvinistic spirit. but I genuinely believe that the UK is not remotely a corrupt country, nor do I believe that our institutions are corrupt. And I think it's very, very important to say that. We have a very, very tough system of parliamentary democracy and scrutiny, and not least by the media, and I think everybody can see that. I think what you've got is cases where sadly MPs have broken the rules in the past, may be guilty of breaking the rules today. What I want to see is them facing appropriate sanctions. Sorry, what was your second question? Yeah, so I don't want to single out any particular countries for chivying and hectoring now. I think everybody knows who needs to do what. Everybody can see the equations. Everybody understands the intricate balance of the negotiations. But what we need is for those leaders to take their responsibilities, ring up the negotiators, and urge them to make progress in the last few days. Ben Webster of The Times.
Tomorrow, Denmark and Costa Rica are going to launch here at COP26, the Beyond Oil and Gas Alliance, with the quite modest aim of phasing out oil and gas over the next 30 years. Will you join them? And if not, why not?
Thank you, Ben. What we want to do is move beyond hydrocarbons completely in the UK and do it as fast as possible. We set an absolutely blistering pace for moving beyond hydrocarbon internal combustion engine vehicles. Where no new ICE cars will be sold in the UK from 2030. We're going to decarbonize our power system by 2035. We're taking gigantic steps forward. And the proof of what the UK can do in terms of moving beyond hydrocarbons can be seen in what we've already achieved, going from 80% dependency on coal 50 years ago to about 1% now, and going down. And going down to zero. So that's what we can do. We'll look at what Denmark and Costa Rica are proposing, and I would certainly encourage everybody to move beyond coal and move beyond hydrocarbons. And I think one of the most important developments of the summit, as I said to you, I think if you were here for the press conference on Tuesday, was the just transition deal for energy, the just transition deal for energy that we've been able to do with South Africa. And I congratulate Cyril Ramaphosa for his leadership on this issue. And that is the way forward. Countries coming together, $8.5 billion to support South Africa's transition away from carbon fuels, away from coal. It's quite an amazing thing, and it is the model that I think is going to help us to crack the problem, if we can get enough countries to agree to it and to sign up around the world. Can we go to Jit Joshi of AFP? Jit.
Thank you, Prime Minister. What tangible difference has your presence here made, and if positive at all, why not stay until the end, whenever that might be, in order to get that ball definitively over the line? And secondly, are you confident that your own actions, both as an MP and as a minister, are entirely above reproach and would pass muster in any standards investigation that might come up?
Yeah, thanks. Well, on the second point first, all my declarations are in conformity with the rules, and you can certainly study them, and that will remain the case. On what have I done, Jit, in the last few hours since I've been here, and has my contribution been of any value? Well, what I've tried to do, I think it's probably for others to comment on that, what I've tried to do is to listen to what the NGOs have had to say, listen to some of those who haven't been actually negotiating, but who speak for hundreds of millions, if not billions of people around the world, but also to talk to the ministerial negotiating teams about how they're getting on, and to encourage them to make some progress and to keep going. They've been hard at it. These are the people who've been helping the British presidency, ministers from around the world who've been joining together to try to get this thing over the line. They've been working unbelievably hard, and we've just been encouraging them, trying to set some goals, some things that we think we've really got to achieve, and trying to get them to focus, as I said, on those three pillars: adaptation, mitigation, and finance. And as you look at the final period of this negotiation, there's no doubt at all that finance is the great solvent that matters. It's finance that will, if we can unlock this, if we can make progress, it will depend on the finance. And that fundamental compact between the developing world, the climate vulnerable world, and we in the developed world, who are overwhelmingly responsible historically for emissions, and who continue to be responsible for so much of the emissions around the world. And with that, I'm very, very sorry to tell you that I have to go and catch a climate-friendly means of transport back to London. Thank you, everybody. Thank you.